Alright, in this video we're going to be talking about finding a place to live, but we're really going to be focusing on just renting like apartments or homes, things of that nature. Let's get started. Alright, what you're looking at here is a whole bunch of definitions. Now I only gave you about six, well, for the terms I only gave you about six definitions. And the reason I only gave you these six is just because of the fact that these are the ones that I'm assuming that you don't know what they are, just in case. Alright, furnished, unfurnished, single family home, multifamily home. I'm assuming you know what that is. And if you don't know what it is, then obviously look it up on Google and you'll be able to get your definitions. Alright, let's keep going. All right, example number 4. Let's see. Actually, we're going to be doing some skipping around here. We're not doing 4. We're going to go example number 3. All right, Rufus and Maria, they paid $200 application deposit for the 1,150 square foot apartment in example 2. Well, we didn't give you example number 2, but I'm going to go ahead and give you some information. The rent for example number 2 is going to be $1,595 a month. All right, so the rent from example number 2, which I didn't give you, is going to be $1,595 a month. That's going to be very important. They are required to provide a credit report that costs $25 and pay a security deposit equal to 1 month's rent. The landlord also requires last month's rent at the time of the signing. The lease, the broker charged 10% of the yearly rent. How much? Okay, so there's a lot of stuff going on right now, but basically the question asks is, how much should they expect to pay in order to move into the apartment? So how much money do they need up front? Okay, well, let's go ahead and get started. So the first one, it says a $200 application deposit. All right, there we go. And let's see what else. They require, let's keep reading, they require to provide a credit report that costs $25. So that is going to be another, let me mute that. I don't know if you heard that, but I did. So that is a credit report that will be an additional $25. All right, let's see what else. Let's see, oh, a security deposit equal to 1 month's rent. So a security deposit. Oh, I misspelled that. And that will be $1,595. And so let me fix this because it's going to bug me. There you go. All right, so what else? The landlord also requires last month's rent. So last month's rent. That means the last month's rent of the lease that you're going to sign. So that's another $1,595. All right, let's see what else. And the broker charged 10% of the yearly rent. All right, so broker will be, now I'm going to leave this blank for a second, but that's going to equal 0.10 times the monthly rent times 12, because we're looking for yearly rent here. So let's see, 10% times 1,595 times 12, and it ends up being, let me get rid of this here, it ends up being $1,914. All right, now let's see what else. Okay, now here's the one thing that this example is under, well, assuming that you know, and that is you still need to pay first month's rent. So first month's rent, because you can't move your couch until you pay the first month's rent. All right, so that's $595. So this is all the money that has to be paid up front in order for Rufus and Maria to move into the apartment. Now, I'm giving you a general overview of all apartment complexes. Some apartment complexes will be different, but some would obviously be the same. But a lot of this does apply all the time, but it may not always. Like, for example, this broker fee, I don't know what this is really. I lived in an apartment before. We didn't really have, my wife and I didn't have to pay one, but but in this example, there's a broker fee. So anyway, we just got to run with it. So what that means is, how much money should they have to pay? Very simply, it's a math problem or an add problem. Add all these numbers up, and then when you do that, you're going to get your final answer, which ends up being $6,924. So $6,924. All right, let's try another one. All right, so this is our homework here. Okay, so here's what I'd like you to do. All right, and you're going to have to pause the video. Figure out Rachel's situation. Same exact question, except different numbers. Okay, so she's got to do an application fee, a credit application fee, a security deposit, last month's rent, broker's fee. So the question is, how much is she expected to pay up front in order to rent this apartment? So if you would, go ahead and pause the video. And just in case if you're going too fast, the rent is actually in the problem at $1,300. So go ahead and pause the video and let's see if you got it right. And so your answer ends up being $5,808. So where did I get all this information? Very simply, I just read the all what's required. So 2% of 1 month's rent is 26%. Application fee, that's easy, 10%, 1,300 for last month's rent. And then of course you had to do a little 12% of 1 year's rent, so you had to do some multiplication. And then lastly, don't forget about this 1,300, which is the first month's rent. And add it all up, you get $5,808. All right. All right, this question here. Use the interval 25% to 30% to find the monetarily range that is recommended for the monthly housing budget. So basically, if you're a financial planner or if you're someone who's making a budget, you want to have about a 25 to 30% of your budget going to rent or your house. Okay, so very simply, here's what we're going to do. We're going to convert, or first off, we've got to figure out what the monthly pay is for Mark. So Mark makes $86,000 a year, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert that to a monthly, which means I'm going to divide it by 12. Now I'm going to keep things simple and round it to the nearest whole dollar. That's $7,167. That's how much he makes a month. Now, it says a good interval is 25 to 30% when it comes to how much he should be paying towards a rent or an apartment or his house. So very simply, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 7,176 and I'm going to multiply it by 25%, which gives me $1,792. And then I'm going to take the same 7,167 and I'm going to multiply by 30% because my answer is going to be in the form of a range. So that gives me $2,150. Yeah. So basically what I just found was this is a good amount of rent when it comes to him making this amount of money. So basically you're just making a comparison between how much should his rent be versus how much he makes per year or per month. Okay, now Linda makes $7,000 per month, same exact thing. All right, so it's already been converted to a month, so that's one thing that you don't have to worry about. So once again, you're going to take 7,000, multiply it by both 30 and 25% to get a range. And when you do that, you get 1,750 to 2,100, and that's how much money you should make. Now for the week here, now hopefully you remember from last unit's test, you're going to have to take this and convert it to a year and then divide it by 12. And so when you do that, it ends up being $6,500 a month. That's how much Megan makes a month. So very simply, what you're going to do now is you are going to multiply that by 25% and 30%, and your answer ends up being, I'm just going to type this to make it faster, ends up being $1,625 to $1,950. So that's how much her rent should be in that 25 to 30% range. Now, the last thing I want to go over is this one here. Jessica's financial advisor believes that she should spend no more than 28% of her gross monthly income on housing. She has determined that that amount is $1,400. Now, the reason I want to go over this is because now we're working backwards. Okay, so now basically what we have here, using this as an example. Let me see if I can clean this up a little bit. All right, so using the Mark example, basically what I'm doing is I'm taking my answer, going backwards to get my monthly payment. That's what I'm doing. I'm just going backwards because the last time I went forward, so to speak. So very simply, it says, what is Jessica's annual salary? Well, we can't figure out the annual salary before we figure out the monthly salary. So I'm going to create a proportion, and it's going to be money over percent. All right, so money over percent, that's 1,400 over 0.28, I'm just going to go ahead and convert that to a decimal, is equal to X. Now, it would be 100, but I'm going to convert that to a decimal, which makes it 1. And when I cross multiply, it ends up being $5,000 a month. So that is how much Jessica makes a month. So converting that to a year ends up with $60,000. All right. So those are the basics for apartment hunting. So hopefully you learned something. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.